Sweet. We're live. Welcome back to Get Sensible's YouTube channel. Today we're sitting down for the next installment in our Community Cannabis Conversations series. I'm very excited for the group of people that we have to sit down and have like a conversation about cannabis today, focusing on the intersections of transness, queerness, disability, and cannabis use. So that being said, my name's Heath. I'm the project facilitator for Get Sensible, and I'll welcome all of our participants to join the Zoom room in the meantime. Our moderator today is Sean, the program manager. I will hand it over to him, and yeah, you can take over. You can tell us a little bit about the project, do our land acknowledgement, and then we'll hear a little bit about who everybody else is. I'm going to turn my camera off because I'll be taking notes. But if I feel so inclined, maybe you'll see me again. Maybe I'll chime in. Who knows? All right. Bye.
Thanks, Heath. So really excited to be here today. We're going to be chatting with some fantastic youth about cannabis, disability, and transness, something we all share. And I know we have lots to talk about, so I'm going to get us started here. I would like to start with inviting everyone in the room to reflect on whose land we are currently occupying, and what your connection to the land is. And like I'll share as myself, I'm a white settler, and I have recently been reflecting on how I don't really know where my ancestry is from, and that is like kind of a common white experience to make us feel I think more like we belong here. Like if we can't trace back our history, then how could we possibly not belong here? And I'm saying that from a whiteness lens. And it was a really important invitation to be asked to consider like why I don't know that. And so whatever folks feel comfortable sharing, I really want to invite them to. But before we do that, I'd like to show on the map whereabouts we all are. So I am going to start with my land acknowledgement for where I am. Can folks tell me with the audio if I accidentally switched out of the screen?
I can still see it.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'm using like a couple apps at once, and here we are. Okay, so hi, I'm Sean. I'm on Treaty 7 land. This land is home to the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda, including the Wesley Bearpaw, and the Chiniki First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. I recognize that the treaty has not been honored and that these lands are stolen and deserve to be given back to its original custodians, the Blackfoot people. I also recognize that so-called Canada's colonial project and the systematic effort to genocide Indigenous peoples continues. Nevertheless, Indigenous survivance goes on, as it always has. May our two-spirit and Indigiqueer siblings have the strength to take up their rightful place in society and thrive in the future. And I want to just open it up now to everyone else, if you would like to share.
I will share second if someone else wants to share first.
Just to make sure I got it, are we doing our land acknowledgement or introducing ourselves or both? Okay, I think I got both. I'm not really good at reading lips, but I think I got it. All right. Well, my name is FrankieB. I use he, they, and we pronouns. I am a transracial adoptee from Haiti originally. I've been raised by white settlers. I currently reside in Jojage, which is the land of the Kanien'kehá:ka, and they also is a meeting place for other indigenous folks. What else? I'm 25. I really like cup noodles, and am also an activist. I'm part of Black Lives Matter here in Montreal charter, and I'm also part of the coalition to defund the SPVM. And I'm very passionate about harm reduction and transformative justice. And I'm just high and happy to be here. So I think that's it for me.
That's amazing. I need to ask for a slight clarification. I think you said you're passionate about something with a C, and I totally did not hear it.
Cup noodles.
Cup noodles. Yes. Okay. There we go. I think I heard like card noodles, and so I was just like, I just need to know.
Yeah. I really love cup noodles. I actually have them tattooed. That's how much. Yeah. It's just I eat them all the time. It's really bad. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Whoever feels like going next. Oh wait, no, it didn't. Blue. No, Mika said they're going next.
Yeah, hi. I like cup. My name is Mika. I have settled on Indigenous lands in Chochage in Montreal. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm trans. And I am white and Vietnamese. And I've been living in Montreal for 6 years, and I previously lived in California, and have learned so much and unlearned so much since I've lived here. So I think I'm continuing to do that with all of you. Yeah, I use cannabis, and I don't know really if I identify with the term disabled, but I think I do feel like I have dealt with disability in life. Yeah, I'm 24. I don't know if I said that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for including me.
Thanks for joining us, Mika. Definitely looking forward to hearing more about your experience of learning and unlearning and what that means for you. Who would like to?
I just realized that I completely forgot to mention things that are actually related to the reason why I'm here. So I just wanted to take a few seconds to say that yes, I am also trans if it wasn't obvious enough by the very long list of pronouns I use. And I'm also neurodivergent and definitely disabled and queer. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks, FrankieB.
I'll go. My name is Eli. I use they them pronouns, and I am originally from Treaty 6, Kawakatus, Poor Man Reserve. But I reside in Mokinsis, which is Treaty 7. And I am a non-binary person, two-spirit specifically, and I love getting high. I'm currently high. And I'm also disabled. I'm a type 1 diabetic and depressed.
Thanks, Eli. Always appreciate your laugh. Keeps me smiling all the time. Blue, I'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Hello, my name is Blue. I am 22 years old. I'm a non-binary trans woman living on traditional unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. I'm really passionate about music, and I have my instruments here. I have a trombone and a trumpet, which I often play because I'm in music school. And I'm super excited to talk about the intersections of my disabledness, my queerness, my transness, and especially my blackness today.
I am very in favor at some point, if you felt up to it, getting you to play a little tune for us. I don't know if you're allowed to play in your apartment, but
I can. We'll see if we have time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I would love to, though.
Amazing. Thanks, folks. Like, I am so thrilled to have you here. And just, wow, what a great number of expertise we have. And I really want to invite people to feel like experts, because you know yourself best. One of the things that the Get Sensible Project has been really trying to put forward in our work is that we got to stop asking questions adults are interested in and start asking the questions we're interested in. And the research and the outcomes will change dramatically. Like, maybe we'll stop hearing about all the suffering and some actual like resiliency stories, and or what youth want to hear when they're struggling. What do they need when they're going through periods of increased drug use, whether that's cannabis or others, you know, or what does it feel like to hear messaging about how our brains are affected by cannabis? It's not fucking good. I'm just gonna put that out there, because a lot of us are disabled. I don't know that we're collecting statistics on disability through generations, but I think it would be valuable too, because I think we'd be really surprised by how many people in our generations are disabled already. And you know, physical disability and mental disability and cognitive disability are things that we're going to be talking about today. And I want to invite our audience to kind of just understand that we believe in disability as a self identification, and something that may or may not feel supportive to an individual with a similar diagnosis needs to be respected, and that we're all the experts of our own experience. And whatever we bring to the table here is from our lived expertise. And we value that, because at the end of the day, like, the scientific evidence doesn't really help me if I'm not actually stopping smoking too much, or if I'm using too much of a substance. So yeah, just want to start off our conversation acknowledging that we may or may not talk directly about our disability, and that's okay, but we all are valid. So I myself getting more and more comfortable with like navigating my multiple identities. It was really cool because earlier on in conversation, someone in this room had mentioned they didn't feel trans enough, or at some moments because they're non-binary. And I was just reflecting on how much that's related for me lately, like being like, I'm a non-binary trans man, but wait, am I actually trans enough still? I'm like, am I gay? And like all of these, like, you know, internalized homophobic, internalized transphobic questions like racing through my head, and how much that relates to my disability as well. But right now I would say I'm a neurodivergent queer who thinks that their diagnosis of BPD is actually autism, and is really working fucking hard to get a grip on his life, I guess. Like, that's where I feel like I'm at. I think living with mental illness has been a big driver for why I want to advocate for more disabled representation and more conversations about disability. And FrankieB, I would love to hear more about your thoughts on the on BPD and autism, and also the intersections with transness. And so I'm super stoked to get started. And I think one of my first questions is really to hear more about yourselves, and give you an opportunity to maybe dig into, like, what does your transness, your disability mean for you, and how do they connect? Feel free to like talk openly, and then if someone starts to talk, then we can start like doing the hand function. Okay, go for it.
Okay, I'll start. So I mentioned I'm a non-binary trans woman, and I also identify as gender fluid, or gender queer, or if I'm around other trans people, gender fuck, because they can understand that more than most people can. So if you can, as you can tell, subversion of societal norms and gender norms and the binary and all the systems that we have established are pretty important parts of my transness to me. And like the subversion, I always use the word, it's my favorite word. The subversion of all those expectations are, to me, what makes me trans and what makes me queer. A little bit about my disability. I'm super cool, but well, not but, and I'm also neurodivergent. Um, um, I also deal with gastroesophageal reflux disorder, which is some stuff with my tummy and causes some issues with that, kind of like a chronic illness that I'm navigating through. And to me, that's been more and more important to how I interact with the world, just because as we're coming out of COVID, we're not at home as much. And for me, that means I am often out in public or in the world when I'm having like kind of an episode or my symptoms flare up from this chronic illness. So navigating that change from suffering from this chronic illness during COVID period and always in a house to going back to school and stuff has been kind of weird lately. So, and then it's all kind of connecting. It's like, I'm trying to subvert the binary, but my tummy hurts. I can't do it. And what else about me? I'm also polyamorous. I have one girlfriend right now, but that is an important part of my transness too. Gender and sexuality to me go hand in hand and are kind of important parts of who makes like blue blue. Um, So if anyone wants to jump in, I think I'm kind of done with this question now.
Thanks, Blue. I'll just say quickly, shout out to the other polyamorous in the room. There's quite a few of us, I think. And to really thank you for contributing to this space. I'm really excited to hear more about what, you know, how stomach and how like ulcers might get in the way of us being our full selves as trans people. Like how does our disabled embodiment sometimes also get in the way? How is it also supportive? Like thinking about that as we move through. So Frankie, I think you were next, or was
Yeah.
it Eli?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Um,
I just took my hand down. You can go ahead.
oh,
I'll go
okay.
after.
Well, I'm trying to remember where I wanted to start. I think one thing I just wanted to mention off the bat is that um, it's really interesting. I've learned that not that long ago, but if you're Black, there's like a really huge chance that you are either disabled or know someone who is disabled. It's something that's really prevalent in the Black community, and I wasn't really aware of that. So I just wanted to share that tidbits of information. Um, yeah, I am personally. I live with chronic pain. That's something that definitely affects me. Often I'm spoonies, so um, I don't know if everyone knows the theory of the spoons, but basically I cannot do a lot of things because I get very tired very easily, and it really affects my life because there's so many things that I wish I could do, especially when it comes to my activism, and that I cannot do simply because I do not have the physical capacity to do them. And weed is something that has really helped me with my chronic pain to just relax and kind of take a break. And I don't know, it just allowed me to not be so focused on the pain. So I'm very grateful to weed for that. I definitely also identify as a stoner. Like I say it as a joke, but also I often felt like smoking weed was like 50% of my personality. So um, yeah, I'm someone who smoke weed every day. Um, I function pretty well, being high. That's just how I live because I don't like to raw dog reality because that's just way too hard for some of us. I also have multiple mental illnesses, and smoking weed also helped me with that. Kind of like Shin was mentioning, like I had a diagnosis of BPD that I believe might have been actually a mistake and I misdiagnosed, and now I am in fact neurodivergent. I mean, you can be both, but that's just how um, I personally feel, and I've been questioning myself a lot. And also, I'm a big believer in self-diagnose because I believe that in the world we're living right now, like getting a proper diagnosis is just not accessible, especially for, again, Black folks, people who have lower incomes. There's still so many medical racism, and that's also one of the reason why it's so hard to get a proper like a diagnosis. So yeah, I'm a big fervent believer in like being able to identify yourself, who you are and how you feel and how you experience life. Um, and also, when it comes to my transness, I use the pronoun we, and my transness really ties into my blackness. I use the pronoun we because I really feel like I am myself, but also my ancestors and the people that walked life before me, and also the people that are going to come after me. So that's how I guess I feel when it comes to pronouns, and I really feel like a multitude, and I think that's really beautiful. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm kind of rambling. I'm a little bit high, and I don't remember what my point was, but yeah,
It was
that's
all beautiful.
it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, FrankieB, and adore the what you said about you are multitudes and how that connects you to your Black ancestry. I think that's such a gorgeous thing to share with us. So thank you. Can I pass it over to either Eli or Mika?
Yeah, I'll go. Um, oh my gosh. And now I was just so engrossed listening to everyone that I've forgotten the initial question.
Just like talk to us freeform on what you actually want to talk about right now, because I think that that's more important. What comes to mind after hearing folks?
Man, the stuff about ancestry was just like so beautiful, because especially because my race and my ancestry has a lot to do with how I identify with my gender as well. And I'm like the singular queer of the family. Um so it's it's been it's been difficult trying to reconnect, I think, with my culture, especially like my kokum has been teaching me how to bead recently, and so I'm learning all these traditions. And um, I had a really personal talk with my mom about it, about all of it, because she was quite sad the last time we visited. She's like, Eli, you're more indigenous than I am. I'm like, Mom, you're my mom. I came from you. You came from my like kokum. It's like you're just as indigenous, if not more than me. People. Um, she just was so hurt when she was young by, I think, her culture and the people who were after her culture, that she completely withdrew from it. But um we're both reconnecting in a very beautiful way, and I think a big step that I have taken to try and reconnect to this culture of mine is to just stop living within the gender binary, um because it was not really enforced in in Indigenous culture, in my culture at least. And there's so many things that we've lost to colonialism that I just feel like I need to do my part to pass on what I have, especially I have an Indigenous name as well, which is Wisipitosum, and it means little whirlwind. And I felt like that's been my name way more than my den name ever was, and even way more than my chosen name has ever been. But that being said, I love my chosen name too. It's so good. I think Eli fits me so well. um, so, and yeah, I mean, I've identified as disabled since I was really young. I got diagnosed with diabetes when I was 4, and I'm 22 now. So it's been 18 years of having to do a shot with every meal. And when it starts that young, you kind of like, you feel like you know you're the odd kid. You're the odd kid out, that something is wrong with you. So I think just being kind of isolated from people in that way growing up did me a lot of disservice, but also gave me the opportunity to really get to know myself and figure out, oh, I need medication to function normal mentally. I need insulin to function normally physically. Um I need to not be perceived as a woman to be happy. And it's I think so. I'm really grateful. I think that I've had this time to figure out all these things about myself and how they connect to each other. And yeah, I think that weed has been a really helpful step for just getting me out of my head. It grounds me. I feel creative and more able to express freely when I have weed on board. Yeah, I don't know. I'm also rambling. I'm also high.
You're not rambling at all, but I was going to say super, super resonate with the sense of being able to like connect more with my thoughts and what I want to express. I think drug use in general, but like a lot of cannabis over the last 2 years since the pandemic has started, in full honesty, has really brought me in touch with my gender in ways that I never expected. Where I could, like, when I'm high, I'm able to like trust my intuition and my magic a bit more, to be like, no, this is the story that makes sense for me. Or like I've had experiences where I literally see my hands differently and I'm like, those are my man hands. And I get really, and like the euphoria that comes with when you mix like your transness and your and your cannabis. And then also realizing that like cannabis was a savior for me for the last 2 years. Like I spent so many days alone that it was so important to have this as a tool.
Yeah. And I think it's a great way for everyone to connect back to the land, which is so important. And it's deeply important to me as an Indigenous person, to have a relationship with the land that is very healthy and connected. So yeah, it also helps with everything. It just helps.
It really does. I really appreciate that that tie-in, Eli. And Mika, I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts on what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think you were just talking about how you were experiencing that like euphoria, which is just like so I guess, after experiencing dysphoria for a long time, you just like hope for that moment. So I'm happy for you. And I think I've been experiencing a similar thing recently, where just like I've had moments of like, yeah, it's just like the opposite of dysphoria. That's the only way I can really describe it. I think that I I said before that I was kind of like learning things and unlearning things with you, like even at the moment. And like maybe I think I do identify as disabled. Um, I don't know. Yeah, something in my mind was just like so like I was really taught to not um to be typical, I guess, as hard as I could. Like I tried for a very long time. Um, after I came out as trans when I was like 12, like I tried for a very long time after that to live as a cis guy. Um, and weed, like if I hadn't been using cannabis, I probably wouldn't be here right now because that was just so uh like a trying experience. And um I think that for a lot of people, cannabis has helped them get through a time so that they could like a lot of people maybe see weed as like a negative coping mechanism. And like even if somebody is maybe not super healthy when they're stoned all the time, like some people just need to like get through that moment to be able to heal after that. And I think that that's super valuable. And I wanted to also like touch about like you guys have been reconnecting with some of your roots, which is can be really hard to do when mm, certain forces have made it so intangible. And like yeah, I think I'm just beginning to reconnect with my like Vietnamese heritage. And I think that being someone who is like mixed race, uh I think I often felt othered by white people and othered by the Vietnamese people that I was around. Um and that probably had an influence on my mindset of um like not being binary. And that probably relates to why I feel that way about gender, or why I was able to like notice that that gender doesn't have to be a binary thing. Um, and also I think it's really cool. I think Sean and Blue were saying like I think Blue said you identify as a non-binary trans woman. And I think Sean, you were saying that you identify as a non-binary trans man. And I think that's like really affirming for me to hear that, because like I do also identify as like gender fucked. And um like I sometimes it can be empowering for me to like say that I'm a trans woman, but sometimes I don't feel like trans enough to say that because I'm non-binary. So I appreciate you guys like helping me feel like that's okay. And just the same thing with disability, like it's a spectrum, even if you're not diagnosed, because I mean like institutionally diagnosed. So I really think that it would have helped me actually if I were diagnosed with like OCD as a kid, because all the things that I was just recently researching, I identified with, and it could have been super helpful for me to not be like going through this ignorant. Um, and it's kind of making me realize that cannabis and like smoking weed really relates to that, because I have like moments where I'm feeling so fucked, like I want to take my most valuable thing, possession, and just like throw it out the window in the car on the highway because I feel so like anxious about losing it, so I just need to like destroy it immediately or some shit like crazy. Um, being obsessed with things like that can be really debilitating. And like around the time that I started smoking weed, I think that started to be alleviated. So yeah, I'm even making that connection now. So yeah.
I just wanted to add, tell that I really relate to a lot of things that you just said. And I think it's really important to, well, I personally believe that drugs are not like a bad coping mechanism. Like, I really believe that drugs are not the problem, they're the solution. We often look at drugs as the problem, but actually, most of the time, there is an underlying problem which caused someone to actually use drugs, and that's the problem that needs to be addressed, not the drug use itself. Like, there's nothing wrong with smoking weed. Often, if the problem is not why you smoking weed, it's the anxious thought you might have, the issue you might have in your lives, the pain. That's the actual problem, but weed is not the problem, it's the solution. So I really just wanted to add that because that's something that I like really believe in. And I'm also part of the crew of trans men who also identify as non-binary. So I agree that it's really nice to hear everyone and to feel like I'm not alone, because I often feel like I'm not trans enough, or I'm not. Also, when we're talking about our roots and everything, like, even though I'm reconnecting with my roots, I often feel like I'm not black enough. I was adopted, and was a transracial adoption, so my parents are white. So I've always had a really huge proximity with whiteness, and I grew up in a place that was majorly white, and I was often the only black kid in the school or even in the city where I grew up. And that's definitely something that affected me mentally a lot, when it came to just my self-esteem and just not being able to relate to anyone, and feeling very like ostracized by both white folks and the few black people I did meet, because they didn't see me as black enough. So, like, yeah, I just really relate to a lot of things that have been shared so far. And I think we're having a really great and valuable discussion. So, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, if I could bounce off of that really quick. Um, I totally agree that cannabis can just be the solution sometimes, because I think I'm going to speak for all of us, but I think living in a system that cares so little about all of us is devastating. Um, and although the tides are changing and people are wanting to learn and unlearn, which is going to be my new motto, I love that so much. Um, it's still a system that has been built on white supremacy and straight supremacy and cisgender gender binary that all of us have left the the boundaries of. And so using cannabis sometimes just softens the load a bit for me. It just softens, okay, I've gotten she, her pronoun all day. Um, you know, people call me a lady. And even though I'm a non-binary person who's just very comfortable in their AFAB and body and femininity, it's still frustrating. And so I'll get home and I'll have a joint and I'll just hang out with my partner who is also non-binary, and we'll just be together, just us two together. And that's what feels the best to me.
I also agree with that. What I was going to say was, for me, cannabis use allows me to kind of de like decolonialize my brain. It allows me to get out of that mindset that I was raised in. I also relate to a lot of stuff Frankie B said about being the only black boy growing up in school, and then being ostracized by white people for having the skin color I do, but also being ostracized by my black peers for acting the way I do, because I was socialized in a particular way and they see that way as acting white, and that didn't fit in with their expectations, and blah blah blah. But what was I saying before that?
Lots. I think what's really important is just let yourself go wherever you want to go. What's stuck out to you so far in this conversation the most? Like you said, you really liked what Frankie B was saying. Like, what about what they shared?
I think
Uh,
you were talking drug solutions, something.
Oh yes. I really
Yeah.
wanted to talk about that. So what I was gonna say was like decolonializing my brain to me is like I can stop thinking in an ableist mindset. I can stop thinking in a transphobic mindset. I can stop wanting to push myself into these boxes that I'm supposed to be in. I'm supposed to be neurotypical. I'm supposed to be healthy. Healthy is defined. I don't know who defines healthy, but that's also a stupid thing to me. Um, and it just allows me to be who I am. And I love smoking with my girlfriend because we can both, if we both feel that way, and we both feel like how we are inside, and not how we're supposed to be in any type of way. And it just feels like this is who I really am when I smoke, away from all of the restrictions that society wants to put on me and that I started to put on myself for some reason. So cannabis for me allows me to kind of get rid of all that stuff and enjoy life. So that's what I wanted to say.
Blue, thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
for reminding me, Frankie.
Y'all make me want to go smoke with my partner now. It's like I'm just hearing everyone being like, I smoke with my partner. It's so wholesome and nice. And I'm just like,
I'm
I
sorry.
just
I'm
want to call my
sorry.
boyfriend and be like, can we smoke a joint right now, please?
I sent money to my partner so that they could pick up joints on the way home and we
Oh,
could
that's
smoke together.
awesome.
Nice. I was gonna say that one of the things that really stuck out for me throughout this whole conversation, and really loved what you just said, Blue, is this idea that I've noticed when I'm not like when I'm intoxicated, whatever the substance may be, I stop masking as often. And I think that's what you were saying. Yeah. And like
Definitely.
for folks who aren't familiar with the word, like in the audience, masking can mean a number of things for people, but you like stop to like self-monitor all of the weird things that you do with your body, with how you interact with sensations or stimulus. And you don't think, like, you don't try to hide it as often. And what I've noticed in like having been high for so many hours of this pandemic, like it's usually at night. Mind you, I got high for this, so I was high for work, I suppose. But like I am pretty good at like separating my life, I guess, still. But like I've noticed how often I get anxious still, because I think some of it is like I'm noticing that I'm acting and like not masking anymore. And then I start to be like self-monitoring. And I think that's why I have anxiety when I'm high. It's not because I actually think the cannabis makes me anxious. It's because I'm being my authentic self and I'm silly and I'm like excited and I have all these fun ideas and I want to talk. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not supposed to be like that. And so I'm slowly learning to like let that anxiety go with cannabis. And it does come with practice, right? Like we're so used to being told to like make ourselves smaller in whatever capacity, whether it's our transness, and for the racialized folks in the room, I'm sure that resonates, and our disability, right? Like we are asked to be smaller. I'm going to pose another question just to kind of like, open up the topic again.
Do you mind if I
But
say
go ahead,
something
Frankie.
first?
Oh my God. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, you can go ahead first.
Okay, I was just gonna say that I really resonate with that, and I definitely feel like sometimes I will unmask and just start questioning it and questioning myself, and I'm just like, wait, am I really neurodivergent? Am I just making this up? Is it really who I am? Like, it's when you've been masking for so long all the time. It's like when you unmask, you almost feel like an imposter and you almost feel like it's wrong. And yeah, like gender really, like I don't know, it's such a weird feeling to be questioning your own validity all the time. But I think again, the word of the night, learning and unlearning, I think really helps with that. And I'm slowly learning to just be okay with who I am really when I'm not masking, because sometimes I won't even realize it, but I'm masking and I'm alone. And it's like, why would I do that? I'm alone. I can't be who I am. I can't breathe and just, do all the weird shit I want to do if it makes me feel better. And yeah, it's been such a journey to just come to terms with the fact that I was neurodivergent, and now just yeah, it's like I feel like I'm relearning myself really and learning who I truly am on the inside instead of the person that I've kind of fabricated for the outside world and that I wanted people to see in order to feel safe. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to add.
Awesome stuff. I wanted to say that like similar to what you and Sean were saying, cannabis, what I was gonna say was it allows me to experience like unbridled trans joy. It's just like pure happiness in my expression and my identity when I feel high sometimes. But it kind of breaks down the barriers into that. And also what you said about stimming, I made a note about, I want to talk about. I have, or I think I do have ADHD. So stimming to me is really important. And when I'm not masking that, um, it just brings stress levels down so much. Like right now, I'm like doing it under the table with both of my hands. You can't see it, but I'm very calm and I feel very safe in this space. And I wish I was able to be high and to use fidget spinners in public because I would be just a nicer person in general, I think.
I think fidget spinners are cool.
I agree.
Is that bad? Probably. I mean, that's what they want me to think.
It's interesting
That's
you
the
say
coolest
that.
thing I've ever seen.
Oh, is it a like for the pocket thing? Yeah, nice.
I love those pocket things, and now it's a pocket thing, and it spins. Like, who thinks of that?
It makes a
Amazing.
really satisfying noise too. I wonder if you'll be able to hear if I like hold it.
Oh yeah,
It's so nice.
that's amazing.
If you folks are okay, I'd like to ask a question to the group. And I know some of you who had interest in joining this conversation might be new to the drug policy space or harm reduction space. But I'm curious if like you find community through that kind of concept, like whether you're practicing harm reduction just one-on-one with your friends when you do drugs, or if you're involved in the community, who you normally see in those spaces. Are they people like yourselves? Are they other disabled people? Like, where do you find the other queer, trans, and disabled people in your life?
Um, I feel like there's been two questions in one, so I'm not sure, but because they were like, there's the arm reduction part, and then where do we find queer and disabled
Yeah,
folks?
so for folks who aren't necessarily in harm reduction,
Okay,
like
so
you
it's a
can answer whatever.
two-parter.
Yeah, you can answer whatever you want though.
Okay, well, I like you said arm reduction, so I was like, obviously, I won't shut up about it because I'm obsessed with arm reduction and I have to speak out. But yeah, I really love arm reduction. Like arm reduction saves lives. It's been saving lives for many, many, many years, even before it was popularized in the recent years. Which thank God because we need it. But I mean, we've been talking before about the AIDS epidemic and how gay men were at the forefront of harm reduction because they've been literally left to die by the government and they had to take care of themselves. And it also arrived during the opioid crisis with Black people that were also dying because of drugs, and no one was caring about them. So they had to start, do harm reduction and care for their own community and make sure that people wouldn't die. So I think harm reduction is just so valuable because we cannot expect someone to stop doing whatever they want to do, but I feel like it's just normal to teach them how to do it in a safer way. um I give this example often when talking about harm reduction. Like, we don't say to people, don't drive a car because you're going to kill yourself. We invented seatbelt, which is a form of harm reduction. Harm reduction is everywhere. Just like with condoms instead of not having sex, or So why, when it comes to drugs, suddenly we expect people not to use it? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, yes, it's purely stigma, and I think that we really need to unpack that and remove the stigma that comes with drug use, because it literally kills people, and stigma is the main reason why people will not reach out and ask for help. And it's also tied into shame, which in turn just makes people use more to cope with the shame. So it's just, not a good thing at all. So I think harm reduction is just so important and so valuable, and we need to keep on teaching each other and keeping each other safe, because we're all we have, and it's very important to keep our community safe. And while we're talking about harm reduction and stigma, um, I also, another example that I find very interesting is that, for instance, crack and cocaine. Crack is often been associated with like lower income folks and people that were crackheads and black people and people who were struggling and all those things, while cocaine was more for like the rich white men, and it was the productive drugs and the fancy drug. And when we think about it, actually, factually, the only difference between crack and cocaine is just baking soda and stigma, really. So I think it's just so important to like stay like to keep um like teaching ourselves and keeping learning and unlearning. And when it comes to where I meet folks that are like me, I must say that I do find myself kind of alone um, in the arm reduction community or space. Like I'm often the only trans guy or the only black person or the only neurodivergent person, but there's always some intersectionality where I feel like people don't really understand where I'm coming from, or um, yeah, so that has been difficult, and I do struggle with trying to find people that looks like me and that I can relate to. And it's slowly, like I'm slowly getting better. Like just this group, I think is amazing. Like I've met like all of you, and you're all really great, and I relate to all everything that everyone is saying, which is like, not something that I experience often. So I'm really grateful to be here, and I think that those kind of spaces and those kind of like services and initiative needs to be encouraged more, because it's very valuable. And I think y'all are doing a really good work. So yeah, I don't know if I have no idea if this answered the question, but this is what I had to say.
I was just going to say you absolutely did. And you're right. I asked a two-parter. So you did an excellent job navigating my question. But Blue, you had your hand up, eh?
I'll let someone else go. I want to hear some other ideas first.
I'll go. Um, Man, harm reduction is so valuable. Um, I don't know if this will answer the initial question, but my cannabis use has increased a lot and really helped me with navigating going sober from alcohol. Um, because there's so much generational trauma there, and my body is not built to digest alcohol. Um, so I really struggled with drinking too much for basically from when I turned 18, which is the drinking age in Alberta, McKinsis, Alberta. um, so from then until like 7 months ago now, I've been sober. And so I think that my drug use being the cushion for me has been really, really valuable, because I'm not sure if I could have done it if I didn't have a different crutch, a crutch that wasn't actively killing me or affecting my disability, because alcohol really affects your blood sugars if you're diabetic, and smoking weed does nothing except for the munchies. But then I just take some more insulin and we're peachy keen. I'm good to go. So I, in like pretty much every way possible, cannabis has been so much more beneficial to me in managing my disability over alcohol, and how that was affecting me and really ruining my life, honestly.
Thanks for sharing, Eli. Sorry, Frankie. I just
Oh,
want to ask too, just to the room at the same time while you think of your reflections here, to also like know that it's okay if cannabis hasn't always been supportive. Like I want to really put it out there that like some of us have had really great relationships with it and some of us haven't. And we're really open to hearing all of those experiences. Sorry, go ahead, Frankie.
I would just wanted to congratulate Eli because I know it's not easy going sober. Like I've been sober for 3 months now, not of all the drugs. I've been sober of my own problem, which is methamphetamine actually. And I've been sober for 3 months. It's been a really hard, complicated journey, but yeah, so I just wanted to say congrats because I know how difficult it is to try to sober up for something that is really, like you said, ruining your life and actively harming your health and everything. And I find that cannabis also helped me when it comes to managing my drug use. So yeah, I really relate to that. And yeah, just congratulations.
Congrats to you too. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Every day is a battle, but we both have this. It's like, that's so awesome.
Um, like actually at a lot of points in my life, I definitely felt like I was trying to do drugs and I would smoke weed and not really feel that anymore. Like that urge to just like, I don't know, sometimes when I smoke weed, I feel a bit more cautious, or I don't know how to even describe it, but it kind of makes me not need other drugs. So yeah, I totally get what you guys are saying. I mean about your question about harm reduction, I think all y'all are more involved in it than I am. I don't think I'm super like actively like doing harm reduction activism, but I think that I've always had a mindset of like you said a really good example of the car. Like we don't tell people to not drive the car, we give them like a seatbelt for harm reduction. I feel like that's always been kind of obvious. And mm, yeah, when you tell people to abstain from things, it makes them not able to like get help because they're like, oh, I have to be ashamed, I can't, like, this is a secret kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like even with cannabis, it's been a lot more open about it in the last, like, since I started smoking weed when I was 15, which was like almost 10 years ago. Like it's pretty different, I think. And like even at a certain point, like I never had too bad of a relationship with smoking weed, but I always had the thought like, oh, I shouldn't have started smoking weed when I was so young, kind of. But I got to a certain point where I'm like, no, like I needed to do that at that point. Like it's true that I was young and it probably wasn't the best like option, but it's all I had to get me to where I am now. So
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the abstinence-based education because where I grew up, I'm from New Jersey. I'm American. So in my district, we were really taught from like day one, if you do drugs, any type of drugs, you will basically die as soon as you like ingest them or smoke them or even look at them. And like that was the message I've got since basically kindergarten. So for me, when I started smoking, which is about 3 years ago, basically when the pandemic started, it was kind of an act of defiance towards my parents and my community and like the people I grew up with, because I know that a lot of them are like kind of, I don't want to say goody two shoes, but very against recreational drug use and the way I use cannabis. So like for me, smoking is like my act of rebellion from my childhood to kind of stick a knife in who I was and what they wanted me to be, and to just kind of like bring alive who I am now, and like this is me and I can do whatever I want. Oh gosh, the horns are starting. I'm sorry if you can hear that.
I'm like, do we make like our note of it? Because this is a moment to talk about how fucking awful it is that we have to deal with this shit. So the noise coming out of Blue's apartment is Blue, would you mind just telling us briefly?
It is a occupation of the downtown core in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. There's a lot of 18-wheeler trucks protesting vaccine mandates from around Canada. So basically, they drove here last Friday, blocked up all the streets in front of Parliament. They have Nazi flags, they have Confederate flags. They're marching around calling for Trudeau's head. They're calling for like nooses, people claiming they're the Queen of Canada. And the police basically are doing nothing and just letting them take over a city. So that's like the situation. It's very loud where I live. It's very dangerous where I live for marginalized people like myself to go outside because they're harassing us constantly. And it feels like the police is doing nothing, and it feels like the university is not doing anything. And I'm just in my room. And in this situation, I feel very stressed, but I will tie it back into the fact that cannabis makes me a little bit less stressed. But yeah, that's basically what's going on. It's a pretty shitty situation.
Thanks for sharing. I did
I'm
just,
so sorry. Oh my gosh. It's so awful to watch, and that's from a few provinces away, so I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry.
And
Yeah, I would
supposedly
just wanted
there's
to
more
say,
coming. Very
oh
crazy.
no.
I know during this meeting, I was checking my phone. I got an email from a university that says they're closing all the buildings on campus because it's so close to downtown. They don't want anyone going into like the buildings or anything because they had problems last week with people coming on campus and basically harassing us for freedom,
I'm so
quote.
sorry that everyone has to deal with this, and I find that it's um kind of one of those moments where I feel like what's the point of having police officer and the RCMP if they're not going to do anything about those kind of situations? It's like they will see homeless folks sleeping in tents, and suddenly like the whole armada is coming down upon them and trying to remove them from just having housing. But when white supremacists are taking over an entire city, they're nowhere to be found. It's just absolutely like it's egregious to me. It's so frustrating. It's really disheartening. And I just feel like also like yeah, it just makes me feel unsafe, and I'm not even there, so I can't even picture how you must be feeling right now. So yeah, thank you for sharing, and I'm very sorry you have to deal with that.
Thank you. It's hard, but I'm like traveling in groups, staying inside, just trying to be safe basically until they leave. Hopefully it's soon, or removed from downtown. That would be nice too. I don't know.
I definitely wanted to, oh, sorry, Mika, you should definitely talk. I was just checking in. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. It's just really obvious like who the cops care about. It just like brutally obvious. It's fucked up, yeah.
I've seen pictures of the OPP, the provincial police in Ottawa, OPS, the Ottawa police, taking pictures with their protesters. They're holding Canadian flags with them while they're like launching fireworks at midnight. It's very disheartening, like Frankie B said, and like it's affecting the community, not just the community, but like the most vulnerable members of the community, like disabled people. We can't get down to the store to shop because There's people that assault like masked people, and we can't go to the store and we can't get services, and it's so loud. I'm overstimulated constantly because I can't listen to horns blaring in my apartment all the time, so I can't work. It's like, this isn't freedom. It doesn't seem like they actually care about freedom. It's very selfish, and it shows a lack of concern for the people that actually live here. Very crazy. So that's what's going on in Ottawa. I'd rather talk about something else.
I am super happy to like steer us somewhere else. I just wanted to give folks an opportunity to acknowledge what's going on, and yeah, like not pretend like we don't exist in this shit world that just keeps getting shittier. So yeah, and that's contributing to how we experience things, right? So it's a good thing we can talk about it. I'm just gonna glance at my list, but I also just want to open the floor to be like, you know, we're over the original hour we talked about staying on, and I am happy to stay here. Y'all are a really wonderful group of humans, and we are really lucky to have you. We could stop the recording soon-ish though, and like we can leave the room open if you want to keep hanging out with each other. But I think this is a good moment to just check in to get a gauge for everyone's capacities.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it would be nice to maybe close the video soon and just have like a kind of holistic checkout, just all of us together without being filmed, so we can, yeah, just all check out and say how we feel and how we're doing and what's up.
So would it be okay if I asked folks like one last question that we can reflect on over video and then end the recording? Okay. I think one of the things that Heath and I were curious about including as part of this series is like, is there something you want people who are tuning in who might not have the same experiences as all of us to know about you and why you smoke weed? Is there something that you like, a message or a takeaway that you would like our audience to hear? And whoever wants to go first can. I'm not going to call on people.
I think I want people to understand that if I'm going to use is it okay if I use the spoon analogy here? Okay, I want people to understand that if I'm using the spoon analogy, that while they may start out the day with 10 or 8, when I wake up in the morning, some days are just so bad with everything that's going on in life that it's just, I'm already at a 2. And I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And for me, cannabis lets me not really raise the capacity that I have or give me more spoons, but it allows me to do tasks in the day that would usually take more, they would take less. So maybe if I have to go to class, that would usually be extremely mentally exhausting, and I would just go to sleep afterwards. But maybe if I smoke a little bit before class, I can kind of get through it easier, and it just makes life a little bit more bearable for me. And I want people to understand that we experience life. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I experience life very differently than they do from an energy level perspective. And cannabis lets me alter the way I perceive things and the way they impact me in a way that lets me keep going and function the way I do.
I would just like to say that like drug users are not bad people, and I think that's one takeaway that I want people to have. Like drug users are great, they're are smart, they are resilient, they are beautiful, they are very valid, and like no matter what kind of drug they use, like I don't think there is such a thing as a drug hierarchy. Like I think drugs are drugs, and they're not inherently bad thing. We just put a moral value onto the usage of drugs when really it's just, you know, something that people do, and there's not necessarily something bad about it, and neither are like drug user bad people. And I think people should also realize that if there's someone you love who's a drug user, you might not know it, but that is definitely the case. And I think that if you care for your loved one and your family, then you should care about drug users' right to use whatever drug they need and their right to survive and to thrive and to have access to information and to just be able to have a drug use that will not necessarily ends up with death because there's nothing in place to make sure that people survive and are healthy with their drug substance of choice. So I think it's if there's one thing I want people to take away, it's that we're great people, we're amazing people, and we also do drugs, and that's okay. That doesn't make us anything lesser than, and sometimes I think it makes us even more awesome. So yeah.
I really don't think I could say anything better than Blue and FrankieB, but I do relate a lot to what both of you are saying. I think people rely or are assisted by a lot of substances in life. So yeah, the stigma around the word drug and like what makes something a drug is definitely making a lot of people have a bad perspective of drug users, but also maybe not allow themselves to help themselves as much as they could. So yeah. If Eli wants to say something, you can.
What I want people to take away from this in the end is just because I use drugs to cope doesn't make me a failure. And the same can be said about all the friends that I've made today in this room. And for all the friends outside of this room. Harm reduction saves lives. Do your part. Acknowledge the land that you're on, and tell someone you love them.
That was really, really lovely, folks. Thank you so, so much for all your contributions today. They're greatly appreciated. These are some of my most excited and cherished conversations are with other trans disabled folks who use drugs. So thank you so much. On that note, we're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna get my tech assistant to stop the recording and maybe come on and say goodbye.
It's time for me. I'm back. I'm gonna keep recording just for a minute to get my little closing words in, and also be like, oh, I mean, it's hard to stay muted because there's so many good points, but I'm also like, thank God I'm off video right now because I'm fully crying in the Zoom room right now. But that being said, I'm gonna put it on gallery so I feel less like it's all on me here. Yeah, great conversations today. I was taking notes. I'll circulate the recording with everybody. My last little closing things. I mean, I'm going to invite all of you to the Discord server, obviously. Keep the YouTube people out of it. No, maybe we might invite them eventually. But yeah, just the last thing that I'll say is to keep an eye out for the other videos in our Cannabis Conversations series. We're hoping to do some that focus on Black youth and Indigenous youth and other like identities that are relevant for young people today and their drug use. And if you want, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's at Get Sensible. It's actually at Get_Sensible. Yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're kind of on Twitter, but we try not to be on Twitter too much because it's scary. And we're on TikTok sometimes. But that's it. That's all I would say. And then I'll say thank you all, and I'll stop the recording.